Let's jump into the quarterbacks here, and we start with Matthew Stafford. Of course, Matthew against the Commanders. He's available in 43% of leagues. We know the feast that is the Commanders' defense right now. Stafford coming off week against Baltimore where, Jay, he throws for 3 touchdowns, 294 yards. Felt like he just kept answering the bell in this game, as we've seen big moments from Stafford his entire career.
I mean, he went blow for blow with Lamar Jackson playing at an MVP level in this game, and for much of it, Stafford was the better quarterback, I think. And the key, I think, is just the connection that he reestablished with Cooper Kupp. Like that touchdown pass, that's just like vintage 2021 Stafford to Kupp. And I think just Kupp getting back to that level is just so key for Stafford because, I mean, Kupp carried Stafford all through that 21 season. Now Puka Nakua's there. Offensive line is playing much better than expected. Like all of a sudden, this offense is absolutely loaded, and Stafford could absolutely be a top 10 quarterback the rest of the way.
10 touchdown passes in the last 3 games. He's had 3 straight with 22 or more fantasy points. When we talk on Friday with Denny Carter about the regression files, Stafford was a guy that came up a couple of weeks ago saying, like, hey, there's no way he's throwing this few touchdown passes. His career touchdown rate is much higher than it has been. It's going to regress to the positive, and that was a great call by Denny, and that has been the case the last 3 weeks. And you couldn't ask for a better matchup than my very giving Washington Commanders. Get this. Since week 4, every quarterback that's faced the Commanders other than one has thrown at least 2 touchdown passes. The last 4 quarterbacks to face Washington have all scored at least 19 fantasy points. Stafford's at home. Ron Rivera's calling the defense.
Playoffs on the line for the Rams.
Playoffs on the line for the Rams. Nothing's on the line for the Commanders except a better draft pick. Commanders, you guys know what to do. Keep it close, but let's not get crazy. Yep. Let's not win this game.
The beauty is the one thing the Commanders can do is actually defend the run a little bit as well. So this is going to be, I think, a passing attack. I think the Rams should be bigger than 6.5-point favorites here, to be honest.
Listen, it was an up and down week for love-hate last week. I'm not going to lie. It was one of my rougher weeks. But Matthew Stafford will be on the love list this week, just so you know. Just so you know, we're going back to it. We're going back to the well there.
Some other quarterback waiver targets, and boy, did we have a long convo on our pre-show call about this. But we land on Joe Flacco, available in 93% of leagues. He's against the Bears defense that has really come to life recently. Flacco's looked good. And then Jake Browning, who is a hot topic on this show at all times, against Brian Flores' Vikings defense, available in 73% of leagues.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit yesterday as well, but Kevin Stefanski coming out saying Joe Flacco is his guy for the rest of the year. You don't love the matchup with Chicago. Bears have played really good, but then he's at Houston, home to the Jets on Thursday night, at Cincinnati. So, 2 of the 4, but yes, hashtag revenge game against the Jets. He's played 2 games with the Browns. He's had at least 44 pass attempts in both. He's averaging over 18 fantasy points per game. And so, again, is it ideal? No. But if you just lost Justin Herbert and you're in a 2 quarterback league, can you get a little wacko for Flacco? Yes, I think you can.
The good thing about Flacco, too, is that for all his sins are fantasy friendly because he, to use a quote from myself yesterday, he just hoofs the ball downfield.
Yes, he does.
He loves a good hoof, Joe Flacco.
He's not alone in that.
And also now, with the way Njoku is playing, and Elijah Moore and Amari Cooper back healthy, they have weapons.
They do.
And they seem to have confidence. I mean, throwing the ball on 4th and 3 for that touchdown pass, even though it was completely wide open, but still, they seem to have a certain level of confidence in Flacco to air it out.
Yeah. As always, look at my rankings, look at everyone else's rankings on rotoworld.com in terms of where we rank all these guys. So, I'm not starting Joe Flacco over an established starter that got you to the playoffs, but you could be in a Superflex league and desperate.
Yeah.
You just lost Herbert. So
a psychotic league like ours.
And and Stafford's gone.
Right.
So,
It gets tough real quick. How about tight ends over here? And we'll go back to the Ravens offense with Isaiah Likely against Jacksonville, available in 45% of the leagues. Sunday night football game for Isaiah Likely here on NBC and Peacock. 7 targets, 5 catches, 83 yards, and most importantly, Matthew, the touchdown in the game against the Rams early in this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a beautiful play, and the fact that this wasn't like a typical tight end touchdown where it's 3 yards out and they fake it to the running back and he scrambles out and he just hits a tight in the end zone. This was a long play. You look at it. Isaiah Likely's in motion, running across the field. They don't pick him up. He is wide open. It's busted coverage, but still, he's running down the field. Lamar Jackson hits him. He gets into the end zone. That's the athleticism that Isaiah Likely brings to this offense. 11 of the 13 targets that he's had over the last 2 games have come from the slot. They move him around. They get him in good matchups here. And over the last 4 weeks, the Jaguars, who he plays this week, have allowed the 7th most receptions to the slot. So Isaiah Likely, who, again, 45% available. He doesn't totally meet our threshold. We're saying 40% today, so he does. But if he's out there, he's the starting tight end with talent, with a very good quarterback and a good offense around him.
And Jay, because of that 40% threshold, Darren Waller does make the cut at exactly 40% available, and he said he hopes to play Week 15, so we might see the long-awaited Waller-DeVito connection against the Saints.
It's been a tough year for Darren Waller. Just hasn't really happened after
couple years.
Yeah, after he came into the season as a consensus top 5 tight end. But with the way DeVito played, and I think just the manner in which DeVito does play, where just with that offensive line, like he's looking to get it out quick, he's looking to take off. I think it should be a good connection with Darren Waller.
When he's seen 8 targets this year, he's averaging over 17 fantasy points per game. And given the lack of weapons, all due respect, I would think Waller would go right back to being a focal point of the passing attack.
Yeah, we talked about Wan'Dale Robinson having success with DeVito out of the slot. Well, Darren Waller is going to be the power slot.
Yep.
So, all right, let's look at some other tight end waiver targets here. We brought up Isaiah Likely and Darren Waller. How about Jarrett Everett, Chig Okonkwo, Tucker Kraft, Tanner Hudson in the deeper cuts here, as well as Tyler Higbee and Davis Allen against the Commanders.
We don't know who's going to be the starting tight end for the Rams. Higbee was out last week. If he's back, I think he's interesting. But if not, Davis Allen seemed to have a little bit of a connection. Again, we really like Stafford in that matchup at home against the Commanders. But going higher up on the list, especially, by the way, with Easton Stick under center, and again, not really having a lot of other weapons, Gerald Everett becomes pretty interesting against the Raiders. Chig Okonkwo had a nice game last night. Feels it's finally starting to happen for Okonkwo the way we thought it would at the beginning of the year. It's taken quite a while, but he's starting to become viable as well. And, as long as Luke Musgrave is out, it's clear that Kraft is going to be a part of this Packers offense. We like ourselves some Tanner Hudson. I feel like the Bengals found something in him, and clearly there's a connection between Hudson and Jake Browning.
If you need a defense, we got some waiver targets to stream here. The Colts against Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers are available at 58%. The Chargers against the Raiders, 69% available. The Raiders against the Chargers, that's Easton Stick game, 92% available. The Bengals against the Vikings are 75% available. And finally, the Bears against the Browns, Joe Flacco, 95% available. And of course, if you wanted to pick someone up that we mentioned today, you probably have to make a tough decision with a droppable player. So we have Josh Dobbs on here, Dameon Pierce, Khalil Herbert, now that being Deontay Foreman's backfield, Jacoby Myers, Christian Kirk, and Jerry Jeudy, Matthew.
Yeah. By the way, also Justin Herbert, now that we have the news that he is officially out for the year.
Force him out.
You can certainly feel free to say goodbye to him in redraft leagues. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.